Hello, and welcome to today's Man Who Knows Everything. I'm back, and you might be wondering why I'm wearing this delightful fez on my head. It's because it's Wearing Out Day in aid of braintumorresearch.org to raise funds, raise awareness around brain tumours. So I would guess a lot of people in school would have been doing this, so I thought I'd put on my favourite hat. It's got a tassel on it. Anyway, yesterday was all about ancient Egyptians, and I still do know everything, but there are one or two things that some people mentioned in the comments that they'd found out and all. So obviously I knew these already because I could only give you 10 facts, but we had Milo told us about Tutankhamun dying from a leg infection, and Neve told me about a game called Senate that the ancient Egyptians used to play. It's like a board game. Ivy May told us that they used money in ancient Egyptian times. They just traded things with each other, so of similar value. Violet and May told us loads of things, that the ancient Egyptians used a 365-day-a-year calendar, that they believed the pharaoh had to do a ceremony in the morning, otherwise the sun wouldn't rise, and that they believed that the sun crossed the sky because it was being pushed by a dung beetle called Khepri. So, as I said before, I knew this already, definitely. And there were other people who told us that Sophie and Emily told us about how not everybody in ancient Egypt could read hieroglyphs. It was just the priests, the scribes, and royalty that could read, and that they enjoyed eating meat, eggs, figs, grapes, onions, garlic, and bread. So I knew that already, obviously, because I know everything. But it was nice to read it and see that you got some facts down on your list that I didn't mention. Just didn't mention it, that's all. There was also Alfie, who told us that Nama was the first Egyptian king. But now, Alfie, one of your facts was that ancient Egypt has got 12 letters in it. Which it does, it's true. But today's topic is Tudor England, and that's also got 12 letters in it. So you can't just say it's got this many letters every day and have it as a fact, because it won't wash. I'm going to let you off that one time, but not again. So, Tudor England, here are my 10 facts. Fact number 1. The Tudor period ran from 1485 to 1603, so if that's on your list, you can cross it off. There were several different monarchs at that time, different royals on the throne. It started with Henry VII, then it was Henry VIII, then there was Edward VI, then there was Lady Jane Grey, Mary I, and Elizabeth I. So if you got that on your list, cross them off. There are still some examples today of Tudor houses. So this is my fact number 2. They used to make their houses out of wooden frames, fill it with wattle and daub, which is like clay, and then they would paint them white and black. So they're very distinctive black and white looks. If you see a black and white house with like black stripes and white patches, it's probably from the Tudor period. And around that time, fact 3, it was very, very muddy, particularly in big cities like London. So there's somebody who's documented, an Italian came over, visited London, and said that there was an evil smelling mud everywhere. So what they used to do is they used to make doormats inside their houses out of rushes from the riverbanks, so that people could wipe the mud off their feet and not bring it into the house. So that was fact number 3. You probably got on your list that the world's most famous playwright, William Shakespeare, was alive at this time, and he is famous for writing at least 37 plays. Now, the reason I say at least is because there's some questions around whether he wrote a couple more or not, but they don't know whether he was the playwright for those. But he wrote at least 37 plays, and he's famous for writing 4 types of play: comedies, tragedies, romances, and histories. So if you got that on your list, you can cross it off. things that people used to do for fun. Obviously, they used to go to the theatre to go and watch maybe Shakespeare's latest play, perhaps Romeo and Juliet, maybe Othello, maybe All's Well That Ends Well. But rich people also used to go and watch jousting, which was when they used to have two people on horseback with big sticks, and they used to try and knock each other off. And also, a big game that rich people used to like to play was chess. So this is fact number 5. The poorer people used to like playing football, but it's not like football as we know it now, because basically you could have a team of however many players you wanted. Can you imagine that? It'd be utter chaos. So, rich people like jousting and chess, poor people play football. The rich people also like to have big feasts, and this is fact number 6. That's 7. Just testing you. Fact number 6 was that rich people would have feasts, and they used to have big banquets, mainly just to show off to their friends how rich they was. So they used to eat some really unusual things, such as roast peacock. So if you've got about Tudor banquets on your list, cross it off. One banquet that Henry VIII held lasted for 7 hours, and it had 10 courses. 7 hours of feasting, can you imagine that? Which brings me on to Henry VIII himself. Now, I am pretty sure this is going to be on your list. So, Henry VIII, really famous for what? Writing green sleeves, you're right. Now, obviously, he's more famous for having 6 wives. So they were Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, and Catherine Parr. And you no doubt know the rhyme to remember how they met their end. So, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. So, the reason that Catherine of Aragon was divorced was because they had to change pretty much everything. Thank you, Donna. Donna's just said that she loves the fez. Cheers, Donna. It's because it's Wear a Hat Day. Google it, look it up, make a donation to brain tumour research. So, Henry VIII wanted to get divorced from Catherine of Aragon. Couldn't do it because they were part of the Catholic Church at the time. So, instead, he separated the church from the Pope, and it mented the Church of England, which allowed him to get divorced and be able to get married to Anne Boleyn. Didn't make it quite a good end for her, though, did it? Because she had her head lopped off. Anyway, that was fact number 7. Then, that brings us on to Edward VI, which was Henry VIII's son. Now, there's a bit of a weird connection, because yesterday I said about how Tutankhamun became the pharaoh when he was 9 years old. Well, the same happened for Edward VI. He was 9 years old when he became King of England. I know, bonkers. But there was a plot by his uncle to kidnap him, and then I don't know what they were going to do with him, but they were going to kidnap him. And he snuck into the garden, went up to the king's bedroom, and his spaniel was alerted to the fact there was an intruder, went yapping along, jumped up at his uncle, and he shot him. His uncle shot his dog. Poor dog. Well, the thing is, they took him to the Tower of London, and he didn't meet a very happy ending either. So, next up is Mary I. Now, at this time, it was a pretty good idea for you to have the same religion as the person on the throne. But because if you weren't, you might make a sticky ending. So, and this is why Mary I got the nickname Bloody Mary, because she was responsible for ordering the deaths of up to 280 people. She put them to death because they worship the same, well, they did worship the same God. It was a different kind of religion. So, either the Protestants or the Catholics. And so she put them to death for not having the same religion as her. So that's why she got the nickname Bloody Mary. Today, which Elizabeth I had 2,000 dresses because, she just liked dresses. And one of her courtiers was wearing a really fancy dress one day, and Elizabeth arranged to have it nicked, and so she could wear it instead. I mean, crazy. So if you've got any of them 10 facts on your list, cross them off. And if you haven't got a fact, if you've got a fact left that I hadn't said, stick it in the comments below. You can also have a think about a topic that you would like to do, because obviously it's Friday, so we're not going to do this again until Monday. So have a think if there's any topics you would like to challenge me on. For example, we've had a message from Lola in Wales who wants to do the topic of Pompeii and volcanoes. So that's going to be Mondays. So you've got until Monday to research as much as you can about Pompeii and volcanoes. I obviously don't need to do any research because it's all up here, eh? And I'll see you on Monday for Pompeii and volcanoes. Thank you very much. Ta-ra a bit. See you then.